Welcome to another deep dive into one of the most
Yeah.
intriguing stories
Absolutely.
from the book of Genesis,
It's
the tale of Joseph, his gift for interpreting dreams, and a lesson in human nature. That's sure to resonate even today.
Yes.
We're turning to Genesis chapter 40,
Okay.
where we find Joseph caught in the throes of an Egyptian prison.
It's a crucial point to remember that Joseph's imprisonment stems from a series of betrayals. First by his brothers, then by his master,
Right.
and ultimately by a system that seems to favor the powerful over the innocent.
And it's within this setting of injustice that we encounter two figures who will play a pivotal role in Joseph's journey. Pharaoh's butler and baker,
Oh, yeah.
both imprisoned alongside him.
Right.
Now imagine finding yourself in such a predicament,
It's a
surrounded by despair. What would you cling to?
hope, perhaps. A glimmer of possibility amidst the darkness. And that's precisely what emerges when both the butler and baker are visited by vivid, troubling dreams. They're described as sad in the text, a
Interesting.
detail that emphasizes their emotional vulnerability and their desperation for answers.
It's interesting how this detail, their sadness, immediately humanizes these characters.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even those who hold positions of power,
Yeah.
like the butler and baker serving Pharaoh himself, are still susceptible to the same anxieties and uncertainties that we all experience.
Indeed, and it's this shared human experience that creates a point of connection between Joseph and these two troubled individuals. When he sees their distress, he steps forward with a unique offer to interpret their dreams. But his opening line, "Do not interpretations belong to God,"
Oh, wow.
reveals a deeper layer to this interaction. It's not merely about Joseph offering a skill, it's about him positioning himself as a conduit to divine knowledge.
That's quite a bold statement to make, especially within the confines of a prison.
Yeah.
It suggests that Joseph sees his ability to interpret dreams as more than just a talent. It's a sacred gift,
Yes.
one that connects him to a higher power.
Precisely. And this connection to the divine becomes even more significant when we consider the social context. Ancient Egyptian society placed great importance on dreams, viewing them as messages from the gods, often filled with omens and prophecies.
So Joseph, by claiming this ability, is essentially stepping into the role of a priest or seer, someone who can bridge the gap between the human and the divine.
Yes,
That's a powerful position to hold, even as a prisoner.
absolutely.
Now let's delve into the dreams themselves.
Okay.
Butler describes a vivid scene, a vine with 3 branches laden with ripe grapes. He takes these grapes and presses them into Pharaoh's cup.
This dream, rich in symbolism, holds the key to the butler's fate. Notice the detail of the 3 branches. It's not merely a random element, it's a recurring motif in the story. One that Joseph will interpret as signifying a 3-day time frame. This emphasis on specific numbers and their symbolic meanings was a common practice in ancient dream interpretation.
So it's like a numerical code embedded within the dream waiting to be deciphered.
Exactly.
And Joseph, with his divine gift, is able to crack this code. He declares that within 3 days, the butler will be restored to his position serving Pharaoh directly.
Right.
What I find fascinating here is not just the accuracy of the interpretation, but the confidence with which Joseph delivers it.
Right.
There's no hesitation, no doubt in his voice. He speaks as if he's simply stating a fact, one that's already been predetermined by a higher power.
And this unwavering confidence speaks volumes about Joseph's character. Despite his circumstances, despite being unjustly imprisoned, he remains steadfast in his faith, trusting in a divine plan that extends beyond his immediate situation.
It's like he's able to hold on to this sense of hope, this belief in a brighter future, even when surrounded by darkness and despair.
Absolutely.
Now, with the butler's fate seemingly sealed, attention turns to the baker, who, witnessing this positive prediction, steps forward with his own dream.
And here we see another example of how the story masterfully uses symbolism to foreshadow events. The baker describes 3 baskets of baked goods on his head, with birds pecking at the top basket. Again, the number 3 appears, but this time the imagery is far less auspicious.
The birds pecking at the bread, it's almost a visceral image.
Yes.
One that immediately evokes a sense of unease.
Yeah.
Even for someone unfamiliar with the ancient dream interpretations.
Indeed, and this feeling of unease is not misplaced.
Okay.
Joseph's interpretation confirms the baker's worst fears.
Oh.
Again, the 3 baskets represent a 3-day time frame, but instead of liberation, they signify death. Joseph predicts that within 3 days, the baker will be hanged and his body left for the birds.
What a dramatic shift from the previous interpretation.
Right.
One moment we have the promise of restoration, the next the finality of death.
Yeah.
It's almost like a microcosm of the human experience itself. The constant interplay of hope and despair, joy and sorrow, all intertwined within the tapestry of life.
And this juxtaposition of opposing fates delivered within such a short time frame serves to highlight the power of Joseph's gift.
Right.
It's not merely that he can interpret dreams, it's that his interpretations are consistently accurate.
Yeah.
Imbued with a divine authority that even those in power cannot ignore.
So we have these 2 predictions, 2 contrasting destinies hanging in the balance.
Yes.
And as fate would have it, the 3rd day arrives, coinciding with Pharaoh's birthday, a day of celebration, and as we'll soon discover, a day of reckoning.
Pharaoh's birthday unfolds with a sense of normalcy and festivity, a stark contrast to the weight of the prophecies hanging over the heads of the imprisoned butler and baker.
It's almost as if the world outside the prison walls is oblivious to the drama unfolding, within a reminder that life in its grand scheme often continues unfazed by individual joys and sorrows.
But for the butler and the baker, this day marks a pivotal turning point, as predicted. The butler finds himself restored to his position back in Pharaoh's good graces, pouring wine and resuming his duties as if nothing had transpired.
And the baker?
The baker meets a grim end, his fate sealed as Joseph had foreseen. The contrast couldn't be more striking. One man is granted a second chance, while the other faces the ultimate punishment.
This raises an interesting question about the nature of Joseph's gift. If he truly acts as a conduit for divine will, does this mean that fate is predetermined? Is there no room for free will in this scenario?
That's a question that theologians and philosophers have grappled with for centuries.
Right.
The story itself doesn't offer a definitive answer, but it does invite us to consider the complex interplay of divine providence and human choice.
It's like we're being asked to consider the possibility that even amidst a grand, divinely ordained plan, there's still room for individual agency.
Yeah.
For choices that can shape the course of our lives.
Absolutely.
Now, amidst this dramatic turn of events, there's a crucial detail
that
adds another layer of complexity to the story.
Yeah.
Joseph, before the interpretations come to pass, makes a specific request of the butler.
He asks to be remembered. When the butler is restored to his position, he pleads with the butler to mention him to Pharaoh, hoping for a chance at freedom, a way out of this unjust imprisonment.
It's a vulnerable moment for Joseph. He's putting his faith not just in God, but in another human being. He's essentially saying, I've used my gift to help you. Now, please don't forget me when you're back in a position of power.
It's a poignant plea, one that speaks to the inherent human desire for connection, for recognition, for someone to advocate for us when we feel powerless. And it's precisely this plea that sets the stage for one of the most profound lessons in the story. A lesson about the complexities of human nature and the fragility of memory.
Because as we know, the butler does not remember Joseph. He returns to his life of privilege, seemingly oblivious to the man who helped him in his hour of need.
The text doesn't explicitly state why the butler forgets Joseph.
Right.
Was it a deliberate act of self-preservation, a fear of jeopardizing his newfound position by associating with a prisoner? Or was it a more subtle form of betrayal, a subconscious choice to bury the unpleasant memories of his imprisonment along with the memory of the man who helped him endure it?
I find it fascinating that the story leaves this question unanswered, allowing us, the readers, to grapple with the ambiguity of the butler's actions. It's almost as if the writer's inviting us to examine our own capacity for both kindness and callousness. To acknowledge the ways in which we might be capable of both remembering and forgetting those who have touched our lives.
Indeed, the butler's forgetfulness serves as a stark reminder of the fickleness of human nature, of how easily gratitude can fade in the face of comfort and self-interest.
It's a sobering thought, one that challenges us to examine our own relationships and the ways in which we might be guilty of similar transgressions. Have we ever forgotten someone who helped us? Someone who offered kindness or support when we needed it most?
This theme of remembering and forgetting resonates deeply with the human experience. We all long to be seen, to be acknowledged, to have our stories and our contributions etched into the collective memory.
Right.
But the reality is that memory is a fragile thing, susceptible to the distortions of time, circumstance, and yes, even self-interest.
It's almost tragic in a sense. Joseph, with his remarkable gift, his unwavering faith, and his willingness to help others, finds himself forgotten, his act of kindness seemingly erased from the butler's mind. But perhaps within this seeming tragedy, there's a deeper lesson to be learned.
Perhaps the butler's forgetfulness serves a greater purpose, one that we can only discern by looking beyond the immediate narrative.
Okay.
What if this seemingly negative event, this act of betrayal, is actually a necessary catalyst setting in motion, a chain of events that will ultimately lead to a greater good?
You're suggesting that the butler's forgetfulness is, in a way, a blessing in disguise.
It's certainly a provocative thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
The story of Joseph is, after all, a story of redemption, of how even the most dire circumstances can be transformed into opportunities for growth and ultimately for achieving one's destiny.
So if the butler had remembered Joseph, perhaps things would have unfolded differently and not necessarily for the better.
Exactly. If Joseph had been released from prison sooner, he might never have had the opportunity to interpret Pharaoh's dreams, the event that ultimately leads to his rise to power and his ability to save Egypt from famine. The butler's forgetfulness, while undoubtedly hurtful to Joseph in the short term, becomes a pivotal turning point, setting in motion a sequence of events that will ultimately lead to a far greater outcome. It's a reminder that sometimes the path to our greatest triumphs is paved with unexpected detours, and even with what might initially appear to be setbacks.
It's like that saying, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, and in this case, Joseph, through this experience of betrayal and being forgotten, learns a valuable lesson about the complexities of human nature, the importance of resilience, and the power of trusting in a divine plan that often unfolds in ways we cannot fully comprehend. It's a powerful reminder that our understanding of events, whether we perceive them as good or bad, is often limited by our immediate perspective. We might see something as a setback when in reality, it's a necessary stepping stone on the path to something greater.
Exactly. It's as if there's an invisible hand guiding the narrative, weaving together seemingly disparate events into a cohesive whole.
Yeah.
And this brings us to another fascinating aspect of the story, the dreams themselves.
Right.
We've talked about their interpretations, but what about the symbolism?
Yeah.
The imagery that Joseph so skillfully decodes.
The vine with 3 branches, the baskets of bread, the birds.
Right.
These images seem to carry a deeper significance, almost like a language waiting to be understood.
Absolutely. Dreams in ancient Egypt were viewed as more than just random firings of the subconscious. They were considered messages from the gods, often containing symbolic representations of future events or insights into the human psyche.
So it's like a form of divine communication.
Right.
A language that requires a skilled interpreter to decipher its hidden meanings.
Precisely.
Right.
And Joseph, through his gift, acts as this interpreter, bridging the gap between the divine realm and human understanding. What's particularly interesting is the way he connects these symbolic images to concrete events.
Right.
Specifically the 3-day time frame. This suggests a level of precision and detail that goes beyond mere intuition.
It's almost as if he's tapping into a cosmic calendar.
Yes.
A timeline where events are preordained and he's privy to its secrets.
And this ability to see the future, to discern the patterns and connections that others miss, ultimately elevates Joseph to a position of power, not just in the prison, but eventually in the entire kingdom.
It's like his gift, initially overlooked and forgotten by the butler, becomes the very key that unlocks his destiny.
And this, I believe, is one of the most powerful takeaways from the story. Our gifts, our talents, our unique abilities might not always be recognized or appreciated in the moment.
Right.
We might face setbacks, betrayals, moments where we feel forgotten or overlooked.
It's like we're being tested, challenged to hold on to our faith and our purpose even when the external world seems to be conspiring against us.
Precisely. And it's in these moments of adversity that our true character is revealed. Do we give up on our dreams, succumb to bitterness and resentment, or do we, like Joseph, maintain our integrity, our hope, and our unwavering belief in a plan that extends beyond our limited understanding?
It's a powerful message of resilience.
Yeah.
One that resonates deeply with the human experience.
Absolutely.
We've all faced moments where we felt overlooked, undervalued, or even betrayed.
But the story of Joseph reminds us that these experiences, while painful, can also serve as catalysts for growth, pushing us to dig deeper, to tap into our inner strength, and to ultimately emerge stronger and more resilient.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always a glimmer of hope, a possibility for transformation. And sometimes it's the very act of being forgotten, of being overlooked, that sets in motion a chain of events that leads us to our true destiny. So as we conclude this deep dive into the story of Joseph, his dreams, and the complexities of human nature, we invite you to consider these enduring themes in your own life.
Reflect on the moments where you felt forgotten or betrayed.
Yeah.
How did you respond? Did you allow those experiences to define you, or did you find a way to rise above them to maintain your integrity and your hope?
And most importantly, remember that even when you feel invisible, your gifts, your talents, and your purpose have a way of finding their way to the surface. Sometimes it takes a detour, a period of waiting, even a moment of being forgotten. But trust that your time will come. Your story, like Joseph's, is still being written.
Until next time, keep dreaming, keep striving, and keep trusting in the power of your own unique journey.